Catch a baby, do the dog, catch a dog. Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay.
Welcome to Three the Hard Way Sports Podcast. From three guys who talked sports together over lunch for over 10 years. Probably eating a Fudgy the Whale.
Bow wow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow, yippee yo, yippee yay. Bow wow.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Three the Hard Way Sports. I'm Bryan Galloway here from Rumson, New Jersey. We have Alex Shanley. How are you, Alex?
It was a big night last night, Bri. Knicks pulled it out. Brunson hurt. OG hurt. I don't know how they keep winning, but they're not going to get past the Celtics, but I'm just praying they get past the Pacers.
Okay, well, I'm glad. It's crazy. It's crazy, but I think you're wrong. I think they're going to get past them. So let's see what happens. And from Parts Unknown, Michael Pipersik. How are you, Mike?
I'm doing well, Bryan. Just battling allergies, like I'm sure many of us in the Northeast in particular.
Yes, and I think it's going to be cicada season too. I think this
That's
year.
right. It is.
Yeah,
Wasn't that like a couple years ago where they said...
there's three different kinds of cicadas.
Oh,
there's like
give me a break.
21-year, a 17-year, and a 3-year one or something like that. And they're crossing over and whatever. I don't know how the whole thing works, but
Franken cicada?
Yeah. There's still a lot of them out there, and they're annoying. But anyway, so the sport world is going crazy right now. So let's talk about NBA playoffs. I'm going to start out with a couple of things real quick. I think the Knicks are so much fun to watch. They are the epitome of basketball right now. You think about it, there's nobody on their team who was a high draft pick. And they are still out there winning because they're playing good basketball. They're playing basketball the way it's supposed to be played. And you can't put that aside. It's so enjoyable. What do you guys think?
I mean, it's crazy, just talking Knicks Pacers at this point, but I mean, just the games are amazing. The Knicks are basically playing five guys. All this load management stuff, like Tibbs is wearing these guys out.
That's what he does.
Yeah, I know. And then OG gets hurt last night and Brunson gets hurt last night. And, I don't know. I mean, like I said, they may squeak past the Pacers. I mean, they're not going to get past the Celtics without OG. So, but you're right, Bryan. It's fun to watch and, talk about a group. None of these guys were starters. I think OG was the only starter, but Ihart wasn't a starter. Josh Hart wasn't a starter. DiVincenzo wasn't a starter. Brunson wasn't a starter all in their previous teams. And now they all come together and, I think they know each other so well at this point. And Brunson's a superstar. He's turning into
he turned into super.
Like, he makes every shot that he has to make.
Thibodeau is, so people can say what they want about the guy. He's a real coach. He actually puts together a system that works because these players they might not flourish in other systems, but in his system, they work. It works. And that's why if you think about it through the years, he's mixed and matched some people, like Evan Fournier, they signed him for all that money. He wasn't a good fit and Thibodeau wasn't going to play him. And I know you got to figure like a lot of teams would have put pressure to play this guy. And he was making a lot of money. But the thing is, I remember him with the Celtics that one year when he played in the Celtics. He came to them at the end of the year that one year, and he was awful. And I was surprised that the Knicks picked him up because he was a one-dimensional player. He was a very soft player. I knew he would never fit in Thibodeau's defensive schemed system. Why they signed him, I don't know. That was a terrible signing, and he was a waste. But guess what? They got rid of him, and he still didn't do well there anyplace else. So it doesn't, they don't look as bad as they, if he had gone someplace and done great, he's a bum. I never really liked that guy. So
Yeah, what's weird? It's funny because like everybody's praising Leon Rose, and like he finally rebuilt the Knicks, and the Knicks are back, and it's all the credit goes to Leon Rose. It's like, what about Jay Wright, man? Like Jay Wright
Yeah,
had
yeah.
three of those guys on his team. They were all starters. They won a national championship, and it's like what Leon Rose had to like just look at the Villanova, player guide and then say, yeah, let me get these three guys, because that's essentially what he did. Now, granted, those three guys were available, and they were all available because, like I said, they weren't starters on their other teams. But yeah, they have lightning in a bottle this year for sure.
No, I think so. They're fun. And Mike, we've been crowding you out. So what do you think, Mike, about
Yeah,
this? You're not a Nick fan, I know,
I am
but
not a Knicks fan, but I do enjoy watching this team. And we text a lot while the playoffs are going on. And Brian doesn't respond because he's always working. So Brian's got like 600 unread texts from Alex and I. But the thing about the Knicks is they've got the grit, right? That to me is a true team. Watching them play, they're relentless on the glass, and Alex is minimizing their potential chances against the Celtics. But the teams that give Celtics problems are those types of teams that are like up in your jersey when you've got the ball. They're relentless on the glass. Josh Hart is 6'4" and he's averaging 12 rebounds a game. It's all effort plays, and those are Thibodeau type of guys. So when they say,
And
"Oh,
he's playing
Leon Rose
48
built the
minutes every
Knicks,"
night.
what's that?
He's playing 48 minutes every
Yeah,
night.
yeah,
That's
and
crazy.
so they talk about, Leon Rose rebuilt the Knicks, but I think there's a conversation that happens between Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau that says, "Hey, I'm interested maybe in this player, Tibbs. What do you think?" Not my kind of guy.
Yeah.
He's got his kind of guys.
yes.
All of those guys. Hartenstein is a warrior out there diving on loose balls last night, right? Josh Hart, even when Josh Hart is out of the play, he's 8 feet away on a rebounding situation, and he still goes to the guy because he's like, maybe I'll tip a pass or something. And Brunson it's uncanny, his ability to make shots when it matters. It's almost automatic. I'm watching last night, and it's a tight game, and he goes up for a three, and as the ball leaves his hand, I'm thinking it's going in. And Dante DiVincenzo is a guy that I had seen early in his NBA career. I thought he was kind of a disappointment. Last year, not so great. He's been terrific this season, and I'm watching him during the season. I'm thinking this guy is so improved, and he came in second in most improved player. But to Alex's earlier point, what Tibbs also does is he wears guys out. So 48 minutes a game,
Yeah.
it's not
Well,
sustainable
it's because he
for.
doesn't have anybody else to like the bench. The Knicks bench is not very good.
Yeah. Well, they're hurt. I mean,
Yeah,
Mitchell Robinson's out,
Yeah,
Randall's out,
that's unfortunate.
and
Bogdanovich. Yeah,
Bogdanovich is out,
Yeah,
and so what do you do? And Mike, I think your point's right. It's grit, it's heart. That's why they're
yeah,
winning, and that's the point. And to your point on Tibbs gets Tibbs guys. The OG trade was a Tibbs guy. Like he went to them, I think, and said, "If you can get that guy, I want that guy."
we
he's a
all loved
lunchbox.
that
He's a
And
trade.
lunchbox.
Precious
He's a
Achua,
lunchbox player.
Yeah,
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 he doesn't care about scoring.
yeah.
He just cares about doing the right things. I love
yeah,
OG.
I think we all loved that trade too because it
Yeah,
yeah,
was RJ Barrett is like, yeah, he scores, but he looks disengaged and doesn't really defend well. So I thought, oh, Anunoby's this is a great trade, and the trade got panned a little bit. I thought by some so-called experts, and I said, I think this is a really good trade because he fits that
yeah. Because
style.
they gave up quickly. I think people didn't like them having to give
Yeah,
up
but
quickly, but
does
with
anyone miss him right now? I mean,
not with Deuce McBride is like killing it.
except
yeah,
for yeah,
right?
except for last game, he was.
Yeah,
Yeah, next
But
man up, and
no, I like Deuce McBride too. I root for him all the time. Because you need that spark. We
yeah,
need another scorer, and
yeah,
that's hard. It's
yep,
really hard right now. But again, I love it. It's great. It's fun. It's it, it's a really good time around here, for
yeah,
sports. And again, we're talking too local here, but it is there. I mean, Knicks have fans all over the place. But then you have Rick Carlisle, who I do like. Rick Carlisle.
great
He
coach.
comes back and he starts complaining about the refs, and that annoys me because I'm sorry, guy. Maybe the refs are bad, but they're not that bad. And there's so many opportunities during the game where the players have a chance to do things, and they're missing free throws, and the refs aren't doing that. And I think the Pacers, I think that he sets a bad precedent if the coach is sitting there complaining. Maybe he did it for a reason. I don't know, but I don't like that type of attitude. I don't like that type of coach that sits there and complains about the referees the whole time because it's not their. Believe me, I don't think the referees, they might miss a play here or there, but there's so many opportunities during a game of basketball. 48 minutes, you can dictate your own victory.
Well, I
That's
think
what.
what's go ahead, Mike.
I was going to say that's what Tyrese Halliburton said, and Rick Carlisle said, "Oh, we're sending over 78 missed or no calls," which I thought was excessive to go to that to go to those lengths. But Tyrese Halliburton said it well. He said, "Look, let's make no mistake. The refs maybe made some missed calls, but he's like, we didn't play well enough to win," and he's right because Bryan, you said it well. Refs are going to make bad calls. The only way to avoid that is don't put it in the ref's hands. Put the
Yes.
game away. There should be
Yeah,
no
you're up
doubt.
10
And
points at
missed free
halftime.
throws and all of these other Miles Turner is just kind of drifting out there. Halliburton had a great first half, kind of disappeared for much of the second half. I look at, maybe there were some missed calls or whatever, but there was a lot the Pacers could have done to win that game, and they didn't take the game. The Knicks took the game from them. So
Well, the one call that set Carlisle off from my perspective was the double dribble call, which wasn't a double dribble.
I
Like
didn't see that. I kept looking at the replay. I said, "Where is his hand hitting the ball?"
No,
it
it
didn't.
was it
It
was
didn't.
no, it
Was
looked
it?
weird though. Watch it, keep watching it,
It
and
looked
look. He
weird,
did
but
something like he turned his hand upside down.
No,
He,
it's
he
I think it's the angle that you're seeing
yeah.
it at. Like they showed one angle where his hand's not even close to the ball, and
right. That's
that's
the one I
everybody's like,
saw.
yeah, and I think that's why, and I think Carlisle thought it was a double dribble because the ref called it that, and then he's making a big deal about it, but the commentators on TV are like, no, that wasn't a double dribble. It wasn't even close to being a double dribble. So I think that set his temperature high, and then like the powder keg was lit at that point, and he was going to get tossed, but.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been a good series. I think the Pacers are going to win the next game. OG's not playing, and and who knows, how Brunson's going to hold up. So I think the Pacers win Game 3, and then it's really going to come down to Game 4. I think in that series.
Yeah.
We'll see because Precious played really well, but again, I liked him off the bench, and now they're going to have
Yeah,
to use him
exactly.
more,
Right.
so they may wear him out. But whenever he's played, had to come in, he's been a rebounding machine.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see how he's going to play. He is undersized though, so
Yeah. But he's no offense, right?
no
Like
zero
like
offense.
yeah. I mean, OG had a huge night last night, but he's OG's worth 15 to 20 a night, and you're not going to get that out of Precious Achua. So
No, so
we'll
that's
see.
okay. So let's look. Here's my next one I want to look at. That Denver series, Denver,
Wow.
Minnesota. It is like it's not even a contest how bad
No.
it's been.
Yeah.
What do you think is the problem here? Is it that much of a contrast in styles? Is it maybe the Nuggets came in too complacent? Maybe it's because Jamal Murray is not as good as people think he is? What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Mike.
Little Jamal Murray seems a little bit dinged up. I think now that they're playing a quality opponent in the playoffs, I think you're seeing how much Bruce Brown meant to that team. I think
Yes.
I think he was invaluable to them. I think they're throwing a lot of different bodies at Jokic, and maybe there's that fatigue that takes a while to show up. You played all the way through to win the title last year, another long season. Everyone thinks you're the favorite. I thought they were the best team in the West, but watching those games, if you didn't know any better and you turned on that game and said, "Hey, which of these two teams is the better team?" It's Minnesota by far. I mean, Anthony Edwards
Love him.
is on another level right now.
Yeah.
Carl Anthony Towns is playing well. They're getting great minutes from Mike Conley. I mean, they just look like the hungrier team now. And Michael Malone's even called out the Nuggets, saying, "Are we going to come out and play? We're definitely complacent. We're the reigning world champions. We're not playing like it at all." I'm really curious to see what happens tomorrow night in Game 3. The Nuggets have to get off to a better start. They're digging themselves a hole. They dug themselves into a hole 5 times against the Lakers, but the Lakers aren't good enough. The
Right.
Wolves are looking like they're good enough. They're well coached. They're excellent defensively, and it's going to be really interesting to see how the Nuggets start the game tomorrow because they've been killing themselves in the first quarter.
Yep. But see now, they have so the Nuggets have the toughest home court advantage I think
Yeah.
in sports really. Denver, the altitude, basketball, like playing basketball in that high altitude, running is like it does kill you. So they usually have that home field. No, it didn't even help. Didn't even help them. They got blown out that second game. It was embarrassing how bad they played. Uh,
Yeah. Anthony Edwards is just, I mean, he's an amazing player. And Mike or Brian, I think you said it, like, is there complacency? I mean, I think the athleticism of Minnesota is making Denver look more complacent than they probably are. But he's averaging 11 points more than Jokic. So star versus star on the scoreboard, Anthony Edwards is 11 points better per game than Jokic. And I know Jokic gets his assists, but that's pretty telling. And it's a gut check game, right? Like game 3 is going to be like, if they lose that, the series is over. So we'll see, how Denver comes out and plays there. I think Jamal Murray's good. I think you're right, Mike. I think he's dinged up, and he was going into the playoffs, but I think he's a great player. I mean,
I
but
think
I
so
think the
too.
best
Yeah.
player on the court is in Minnesota with Anthony Edwards.
Well, that's what they say, right? In the NBA, oftentimes it's the team with the best player, and right now the best player is by far Anthony Edwards.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the difference.
yeah. So
yeah. So okay, and so what about let's. So how do you think the Celtics are playing, Mike?
Well, look, they I think that loss to the Heat in Game 2 was a wake up call, and they took over that series. They looked great in Game 1. Right now, they're in Game 2 struggling, and the Porzingis injury, I don't think is it may come to bear in this series because there are a couple of decent big guys on the Cavs in Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I think the part with the Celtics that concerns me is they often live or die by the three. Game 2, they're down 10, 11 points midway through the third quarter, not hitting threes. And Jason Tatum seems to be a little bit out of sorts right now. To me, the best player on the Celtics so far in the playoffs has been Derek White for them, which is fine, right? It's great to get other guys to step up. But in a game like a game 2 against Cleveland, where you could really seize control of the series and kind of put the Cavs on their heels and say, okay, we're going to definitively identify ourselves as the best team in the series, and we're going to take a 2-0 lead at home. In that game, in a game 2 situation, I think you need a Jason Tatum to step up. And I'm just not convinced yet. I keep waiting for him to take that leap. And at moments he does, and you're like, oh, there it is. Now he's going to keep going on this trajectory. And there's just these pauses with him. So I'm not concerned yet, but winning a title, I mean that's the next frontier for him. And to me, I've heard people say, well, it's not an NBA title or a bust season for the Celtics. I kind of think it is. I think you've had so many opportunities. You've been to the finals. You've lost in the Eastern Conference Finals so many times. You picked up a Porzingis to get you over the hump. I feel like they've got to get over the hump this year. I mean,
yeah, I
otherwise
mean,
they're the Buffalo Bills.
and if the Knicks get that one right player, and I don't know who that is, but if they get that one right player this summer, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're going to be really good next year. They're
Fantastic.
going to be
Yeah.
really, really good next year.
Yeah. If they could
Um,
land a star, like you're saying, like where it's like a Brunson and another star,
yeah,
wow, that's a
yeah,
I don't know who that guy would be, but
yeah. I don't know either, but
yeah,
Jared Allen's not playing tonight either, right, for Cleveland.
yeah,
So
yeah.
both big men are out. Yeah, interesting. So Boston will, I think Boston. This doesn't go more than 5 games. I don't think.
Well, another, the Orlando series, that game 6, I really thought Orlando was going to do something at that point, right? I thought they were going to come and win game 7. So Cleveland showed me something in that game 7 because I really didn't think they were that good.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
Donovan Mitchell is a really good player, and I think he took over Game 7. Right, he said, "Hey, I'm tired of losing, and he's been in these weird situations, like on a pretty good Jazz team that's only going to go so far, and Cleveland is similar though, right? They have a ceiling, I feel like, in the East, because the East just keeps getting better, right?
Yeah.
There's the Knicks are very good. I feel like the Pacers are an up and coming team. The Magic, I think Alex might have had them as a sleeper pick for this year. They had a nice season, young team, on the upswing. There's a lot of talent in the East. So,
Sixers.
yeah, Sixers. I mean,
Maxey is unbelievable.
yeah,
So,
Maxi's a fantastic player.
what do you think about the Oklahoma City series, Mike? Why don't you go first?
I'm shocked at how good they've gotten in such a short period of time. I think we probably all three of us thought this is an up and coming team. Alex, this might have been your up and coming team in the West,
Yeah.
and they're another team that's very good defensively. I think now, because I think Doncic is a little bit banged up. He hurt his knee in the Clippers series, and he looks a little bit hobbled. He's still getting his points, but in game one he struggled and he looked a little bit burned out. I have to give credit where credit's due. I think Kyrie Irving is back to being that talent that we expected him to be. Seems to have been stabilized. I just think the Thunder are going to roll through this series. I would like to see the Mavs get through because I'm a big Doncic fan, but I think the Thunder are on this trajectory of becoming an elite team really quickly with a lot of young guys, well coached. I think Mark Dano won Coach of the Year. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander came second in MVP. Didn't Jalen Williams win like Sixth Man of the Year? I mean, they're Chet Holmgren second in Rookie of the Year. I mean, they've got everything going on for a young team. They're fun to watch.
It's just like Timberwolves, right? It's like the same series, right? Like
Yeah.
you have this young athletic team that are coming in against this, team that's, not older, but, a little more established and, good. And the young guys are just, running wild. And, I mean, they trounced the Mavericks in game one.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. And, I think Shaq last night was giving SGA some love, telling Jokic that he shouldn't have won it, that SGA should have won the MVP. But I mean, they're young, they're athletic, and I look at them just like I do the Timberwolves. I think they're going to roll, and what a series that would be OKC and the Timberwolves. It'd be
Yeah, it's like the next generation of the NBA right there in the Western Conference Finals, right? Anthony Edwards against Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, and then you've got Chet Holmgren in there as well. Karl Anthony Towns finally, as a number one pick, getting himself.
They were going
into
through, like you said, Mike, changing the guard, right? Like who's out of the playoffs, right? LeBron James is out of the playoffs. Anthony Davis is out of the playoffs. Jimmy Butler is out of the playoffs. It's like that previous guard. All of those guys are gone and out of the playoffs. And you look at who's still in it, and it's the whole new guard. So be it the Celtics, be it the Knicks, the guys with the Timberwolves, the guys with OKC. So it's good. It's good for the NBA. You got to get a fresh face and sell some new jerseys.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I have to tell you, it is. It's good to see this. I was worried that it was going to be boring in the playoffs, but they're turning out to be really good. We'll see what happens, and hey, it's the NBA. It's fun, and I'm really, really pulling for the Knicks, but I'm also really pulling to see the Nuggets get out. I want to see them get out.
Really?
Get
How
knocked
come?
out.
Yeah, knocked out.
Why?
I don't like them. I don't like them. I've never liked them. I don't like Jamal Murray. I hate Jamal Murray. I really
You've
do.
never been a Jamal Murray guy.
Really?
Why is that, Brian?
I mean, he's a hard
because he's Canadian.
blue collar player.
I think Brian doesn't like him because he's Canadian.
No, that's not what it is. I've never liked the guy.
All right.
Never liked him.
Well, you're a West guy, Brian. You're a Golden State Warriors fan, so you bump against these guys all year.
I just don't. I don't like him because he's. I don't know. He keeps saying, "Oh, I'm not getting the recognition. I'm not getting," and he underperforms. I think he goes through periods where he's really good, and then he goes through periods where he's like non-existent. and he's second fiddle to Jokic. And I don't know how good he'd be without Jokic. I really don't.
Jokic.
Yeah,
Jokic.
the Joker. I never say his name right, but anyway, okay. So let's jump really over to NHL, which I'm going to say the Rangers are another. Knicks, Rangers. The town's electric right now. The Rangers are on fire. They're on all cylinders, and they're also, I think that the overtime match against Carolina the other night was just like pure craziness. And if Carolina had won, believe me, I really had a feeling that might have been it. That could have pulled the whole series the other direction. But the Rangers, those were the games the Rangers used to always lose,
Yep.
and they won that game. So
Yep.
I am just like, that was just amazing. That was amazing to watch, and it's just, New York sports right now is going nuts.
Yeah, I mean, don't count Carolina out. I mean, I know they're down 2-0, but they're a resilient team, and they have a pack mentality, and I think it'll be interesting to see what happens tonight. They're tied 2-2 at the end of the second, so it may be another overtime game tonight. But it don't count Carolina out. I think if they win tonight, it's going to be. I think whoever wins that series then ultimately wins the Stanley Cup. I think. But Panthers are still very good, and that was a bloodbath last night.
I know.
The Bruins, oh my God. When they put in 6 goals, the Bruins said that's it. It was just like a fight broke out every 2 seconds. But I think, I don't know. I just think the winner's coming out of the East. I think with Vegas losing, I think the Dallas Stars are still looking good. Avalanche looking good, but
I wouldn't.
don't know.
Yeah, I see the see if I'm comparing the Rangers to those two teams, I'm not worried. I'm still worried about Edmonton. I just don't know how the matchup's going to be. That's a tough
Yeah, the
offensive
Canucks
team.
won game 1. I mean,
Right, and so that's why I'm kind of rooting for the
5-4.
Canucks. I'm rooting for the Canucks.
Yeah.
But who are also a wonderful team. So they're a lot of fun to watch too. But it would be hilarious to see the Rangers Canucks again, because that's
Oh,
what
God, can you imagine?
If they went back to those black and yellow uniforms.
The Canucks
and
with the E on it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I have a friend named Andrew Bradshaw. I think you guys have met him, but he when we were, I said to him, "Hey, who's your favorite hockey team?" He said he doesn't have one. So I said, "You got to pick one." And he goes, "I don't know who to pick." I said, "Well, let me pick one for you. You're a Canucks fan." So he actually became a Canucks fan. He had his shirt and everything, and so he was a Canucks fan. And so when they played the Rangers, we were like, that was pretty funny. But the Canucks have not won a Stanley Cup, right? I don't think they have.
Ever. No.
I mean, Montreal's the last Canadian team to win, like 30 years ago.
Wow. Has it been that long?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you have Winnipeg, you have
Calgary,
Vancouver, Calgary.
Edmonton's been terrible.
No, wait, Calgary won. Calgary won.
No.
If they won it, they won it before the Canadians. The Canadians won it when Patrick Waugh was a rookie. Then they won it 1 or 2 more times with Patrick Waugh. 91, I think they beat the Kings the year that Gretzky got traded there.
That was a good team.
I don't know if Calgary ever won. They lost a couple times.
No, Calgary won. They won with they had the one player that was like really good.
Lanny McDonald?
No, I don't think they won with him. Brian.
Jerome English? No, they didn't. Okay.
I don't think they did. I think they were there maybe 1 or 2 years, but I don't think they ever won it.
Further,
I know who you're talking
about. Distaste for Canada. We can't name the last Canadian team to win a Stanley Cup.
I'm telling you, I named it. It's the Montreal Canadiens. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it had to be the Canadiens, right? God knows it wasn't Toronto. They got knocked out. I was hoping the Maple Leafs would come through, but what did Austin Matthews have? The flu or something? He's missing games like crazy.
Yeah, I know. Sick.
Awful.
I know, but I think half
Brian's right. They won it, but they won it in 88, 89.
They did win a Stanley Cup. I did not know that. Look at that.
Yeah, and they got there in 2004.
The Saddle Dome. Remember they played in the Saddle Dome.
Yeah. That was an Olympic stadium as well, right?
Well, and they were there originally, the Atlanta Flames, which they used to have the Atlanta Flames emblem was the coolest thing. The NHL has tried twice in Atlanta to have a team there. They just could not draw.
Yeah.
It's not a hockey town.
Thrashers was terrible. That's a terrible name for a team.
I mean, the Braves don't draw.
I went to an Atlanta Thrasher game with our friend Walter Hureski.
Oh, really?
During one trip out there, we went to a game. We got tickets for like $10. Like there was like no one was going to the games. Yeah, so that's why they moved out of there.
Are the Thrashers the Jets now? Did they move to Winnipeg?
I don't know if they did because the Jets were originally a team. Then the Jets
Yeah.
moved someplace else, and then
Yeah.
they brought them back. But they used the same emblem, which is like the Baltimore Colts and the Cleveland Browns situation there.
We should do an episode on all the hockey teams that have moved. Who is who? Because
I know.
the Jets
or any
moved
even
somewhere,
a lot of sports teams. Like you look at the Colts. There's a lot of teams that have moved around. Like
The Rams.
how many times have the Rams and Chargers and
they go back and forth.
The Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders too.
Yeah.
Raiders. There's some teams just can't, and the Oakland A's are still there.
Yeah. Well, not for long.
Yeah, I know.
They're going to Sacramento next year.
Yeah, I know.
Brian, you think the Rangers are winning
Ignillo.
the Stanley
Yeah.
Cup this year? Do you feel good?
Is it? Yeah, like that guy. The guy was
Jarome, and then the last name was
Jerome Iglesias.
Iginla.
Yeah, he was terrific. He was
I
a
remember
terrific
him.
player.
He was good.
He was at the time the best player in the NHL. During that time,
definitely.
he was just amazing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Brian, you're right. They won it in 88, 89. But I think Montreal won it after them.
Yes.
Yeah. Mike's team.
Yes.
So
My childhood team. Guy Lafleur, The Flower, Patrick Waugh.
That was a great team. No,
I think
it was Ken Dryden at that time, right?
Yeah.
Guy Lafleur, Ken Dryden, yeah.
Brian, you're right. Like New York's electric with the Rangers and the Knicks. And for those of you, not affiliated with the New York locale, they are switching that Madison Square Garden over every day because the Knicks and the Rangers play. The Knicks will play on Friday. The Rangers will play on Saturday. So they switch it from, basketball court to ice. And then the next day, the Knicks play again back to basketball court. And then the next day, the Rangers play. So those guys are putting in some extra hours. But New York is right now electric. It's like 1994 all over again.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
it's a great atmosphere in there. Yeah. It's amazing.
So how you guys doing with your picks for the UFL? How are your teams doing there in the UFL?
I think I watched like 2 minutes of the first game, and that was it.
Yeah, I know. It's actually not bad. Like if you're on a business trip and you turn on the TV, there's nothing else to watch. Yeah. It's actually not bad. It's not bad, but I'm not going to go out of my way to watch that.
I wonder if people are gambling on it. Like that'll be the big thing.
Totally
right?
Are. There's a fantasy league. I saw a fantasy league for it.
Come on.
Yeah, there is. I wouldn't join. And I've joined a lot of fantasy leagues through the years, but I have not joined that one.
How many do you play a year, Brad?
Not as much as I used to. Like I don't play in a beach volleyball one anymore, and I play.
No, but I mean, you're in what 3 or 4 football ones, right?
Mm-hmm. And 3 baseball, and 1 basketball, 1 hockey.
That's a lot.
That's all right now. Though I'm not. Yeah. I used to be in a soccer one. I don't do that anymore. I used to be in beach volleyball. I don't do that anymore.
How did beach volleyball work?
It's just
because one team won every game, every match, right?
not
if you got Karch Karai, you won.
No, but you might not have his partner, and it's you pick your roster, and it's how they finish every week, and so you got points based on how they finish.
Right, I got you.
So and you can't you wouldn't have gotten this. You wouldn't get 2 of the same play on the same team. That the odds of that happening in the draft is not very good.
Right, gotcha.
So let me tell you, fantasy is great. Baseball is so good. There's not, as much as football is good, baseball is so much fun because it makes you pay attention to like all these other games that you probably wouldn't care about.
Right.
Like all 162 games of the regular season. First 159 games. Just watch the last 3 game series in the playoffs.
Yeah, I made. I actually have to tell you, in all 3 of my baseball leagues, I'm doing really, really well right now. So that's second year in a row. For some reason, I've been making some really good selections, and I'm spending the time to. I did spend a little bit of money, and I bought a RotoWire subscription, which was only like $30, but for your drafts, it has like software that you can just plug in, and it helps you make smarter picks. So you would think more people would do that, but they don't, and
Hmm.
that helps a lot.
Hmm.
Doesn't help with football though. It doesn't. Um, I don't know.
Football's so injury, like there's so many
Yes,
injuries, you really have to have depth on your team in football, and backups to backups, and you have to work the waiver wire, and I think football's just different from that perspective.
I don't play daily fantasy that much. I once in a while I play it, but I really don't. That's more game. That's like more. That's like
Yeah,
closer
that's
to
just
gambling.
gambling.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care for that as much. I mean, it's not, it's intriguing, but I don't like it because you're the odds are picked by whomever, right? And when you're picking so it's not like you're making those real selections. You have to make picks based on um, like their choices, so when you're putting together a lineup, you might not agree with the way the players are ranked. So you're trying to put together the best possible lineup, and it doesn't always work like that. So I don't care for it, but I will do it once in a while. And I actually, I do have an account where I do it, and I might be. I think I put in $20 and I made it go up to 40, and then I kind of like left it there. That's all I've been kind of balancing that out. I don't want to spend the money. I don't like
Yeah.
I'm very conservative with my betting, so I don't like to lose. So if I play a dollar here, a dollar, that's all I do. I join the dollar ones, and I play and see if I win something. That's it. I
Hmm.
just don't have the time to do that.
Yeah.
But okay, so Alex, you had some other things you wanted to discuss and ask us about. So what else? Like
So
you came up with some good like discussion points. So let's go through those.
So what I thought we'd do is go through a few different, we'll call them sports highlights, and get your guys' reaction, and your answers to some of these questions. So what in obviously it's something that you've watched, right, or witnessed, or maybe went back and watched, but what is your favorite home run of all time? So we'll start with you, Mike.
Oh, for me, it's definitely Bucky Dent's home run against the Red Sox in
Okay.
1978 in that one game playoff, because
Yep.
I was a Yankee fan, and it was on a weekday, and I remember coming home from school. So my God, I don't know how I still remember this. I was like 6 years old, but I remember coming home from school to watch the game, and my dad worked nights, so he's asleep on the couch. And when Bucky Dent hit that home run, I was so excited, but I couldn't I couldn't like make noise because my dad. And I just remember kind of quietly jumping up and down and like cheering, but knowing that I couldn't wake up my dad because he'd murder me. But I just remember because he was not a home run hitter, kind of like a light hitting shortstop, and he just hits this ball, and it's like, and I'm watching it go over that massive green monster, and I was like, holy cow, Bucky Dent hit home run! I'm like losing my mind as a 6 year old. I probably ran into the backyard after the game and screamed like a maniac to
And
avoid.
Bill White's call is a classic on that one too.
Yeah.
It was incredible. It was just like an incredible moment for me, and of course, being that it was against their biggest rival was just made it like really special for me. So when I was thinking about it, like that one, there were other ones that I thought were great. I won't mention them because I may be stealing, one of yours thunder, but there were others. But like for me, that one resonated because I remember like being a kid and being a Yankee fan, and like still to this day, and it's an iconic home run in baseball history still as well.
Yeah,
Yeah, they
it
replay
was
it.
a school day because I love the fact that you said it because I remember where I was. I was at my great grandmother's house, and
You
she
know,
had a she had a black and white TV, and my sisters and I used to have, or actually Jennifer was too small then, but Lisa and I used to fight over who would watch. She would like to want to watch like the Magic Garden or some stupid thing like that, and
General
then so
Hospital.
yeah, and I got that day I got to pick to watch the game because I was like, you gotta let me watch the game. Oh, I want to watch the Magic Garden or whatever that stupid show. And she used to love to watch that, or the New Zoo Review, all those stupid shows she used to want to watch. And so that I was so lucky that it was my choice to watch, and I got to watch it because otherwise I would have missed it. But I do remember seeing it on her black and white TV, sitting there, and it's just amazing. While we're waiting for our mom to pick us up after school, so that was it was an amazing thing. When those certain, just like, like, O.J. Simpson or the president gets shot or the man on the moon or anything like that, where the discovery, you remember those certain things where you were when that happened.
Yeah.
And I remember when Bucky didn't hit that home run. I remember exactly where I was. I remember the chair, the whole thing, and it's just amazing. So yes, I agree with you, Mike. That's a great one.
And what about yours, Brian?
So mine, it's funny because I would have said Bucky.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing is, this one for some reason, as much again, I was a big Bucky Dent fan. I liked Bucky. That was great. So, but the Chris Chambliss home run
Yeah, the
to
3-run
get him into
homer.
into the World Series,
Yeah.
that's the one to me that that goes in my mind all the time, because that was it. That was like the previous year, and it broke that long-standing curse of not getting into the World Series. So to me, that was the one that I really remember. Again, same thing. I was in my room on my little black and white TV watching that, probably up later than I was supposed to be because of I was a little kid. But I remember sneaking to watch that. Really, my mom was probably didn't even know I was watching it, and going nuts. And I had to be quiet. Just it's so funny when you said that you had to be quiet because your dad. I know when Chambliss hit the home run, I had to be really quiet because I didn't want you to get in trouble for being up. But that to me is the one that resonates with me. That was just so cool. It was just amazing. And but then Bucky Dent might have topped it the next year. But I'm telling you, for me, it's just because it was the year before. That's the one that stuck with me.
Nice.
It's funny. The first game I ever went to, Yankee game, was in '79, and Chris Chambliss hit a 3-run homer to win that game too. So
That's awesome.
yeah, it was kind of like flashback to that.
He was you know what? He was a darn good player. He
Oh
never
yeah, yeah.
he definitely did not get the recognition he deserves. But
No.
nowadays he'd be very very rich guy.
Yeah.
But he was a great fielder, wonderful fielder, and great hitter. And then at the end of his career, he was a really really good pinch hitter with the Braves near the end of his career. Which he kept his career going a little bit longer than it probably should have.
And I remember him as a clutch hitter. Like,
Yes,
you needed a
Yeah.
hit, he was up. He was a clutch hitter.
he was a doubles guy more than a home run guy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Doubles guy, like, but
Yeah.
but that lineup, you think between Nettles, Reggie Jackson, all those guys, like,
Munson.
he got pitched to more often than not because they didn't want to deal with these other guys, and he would
Yep.
make the best of it. And yeah, Chris does not get as much as he deserves. He was a great player.
Yeah.
I got his autograph out of two guys when I was a little kid.
Two
Nice.
guys from Harrison, yes.
Him and Mickey Rivers, who I
Oh,
love.
that's good. I love
And it was
both
pretty
those
cool.
guys.
It's like a really long line too. I was like, "This is so
Yeah.
great! I get to meet two actual Yankees. Like, how cool is that?
That's
Like,
cool.
you can't do that now. You can't go to a department
Well,
store.
you know something. I have
Well,
to
you
say this.
pay $500.
Well, yeah, no,
This
but
is nothing. It was nothing.
so guess right now, Ron Bloomberg and Mickey Rivers and Art Shamsky, the old Met,
Mhm.
they are
Yeah.
all good friends. They all became good friends over the years, and they actually have autograph signings, a bunch of different places. I want to go because those are. I do have a Mickey Rivers from previously, but I like to go get Bloomberg and I like to go get Art Shamsky. But they're. It's actually local. They're going to be. I'm telling you, it might be even in like June. They're going to be around. I'll let you guys know. We may maybe we'll go out there and interview them or something.
If we
That'd be
see Mickey
fun.
Rivers, I'm going to say, "Remember me?"
Yeah.
1979.
I love when they do that on
Yeah.
the radio. When they call on the radio, remember like 4 years ago, you guys were at this offsite and I was the guy. And they're always like, yeah, we remember.
I remember.
They don't remember.
No.
So okay. So Alex, what's yours? What's your most memorable now?
Mine is Kurt Gibson. And,
Okay, another great one. Another great one.
it's funny because, when I was putting as we go through the categories, many of my choices are not the teams that I root for. I mean, those memories jump back in my head quickly, but then I really, I was sitting thinking like, well, if you said something like, what's the first thing that jumps to your mind? And for home runs, it was the Kirk Gibson one for a couple reasons. A, I was in college. B, the A's were so favored to win that World Series. Like they just were stacked like they were in the 70s. The A's just had such a great team. And I think they had won the previous World Series. And I just remember listening to the TV and the call, and Vince Scully on the call on TV. But what sticks with me is the radio call, which they always play, which is Jack Buck's call, which is where he
Yep,
says, "I don't believe what I just saw."
that's a great call.
And this is a great, great call. And Vince Scully had a great call as well. And the whole build up to, oh, he's not in the dugout. Where is Kirk Gibson? Here he comes. He's coming out, and just the whole thing. And it flipped the series, right? The Dodgers won the game, and Oral Hershiser pitched an amazing series, but that really propelled them to win that World Series, because I don't think anybody had
No way.
any thought that the Dodgers were going to win that World Series.
No, and that team was that team. You have to say something. That team could be like the Knicks of this year, because that was a workman's team, a lunch pail team.
Yeah,
John Shelby. They had a lot of those like a not nondescript players that really didn't have long careers.
yeah.
That's a great, and that was just a great. I remember exactly where I was when that home run was hit, and that's a classic. That's one of the top 10 of all time. A lot of people from. It's funny that it's a Dodger,
Yeah.
but a lot of people are not going to pick the Denton and Chambliss ones because they're not Yankee fans, but the Dodger one, that Gibson one, that resonates for pretty much all baseball fans.
Yeah, yeah. I thought that was a great one. So what about pitching? So best pitching performance that you can remember, or that you watched. You want to start, Brian?
Yeah, I'll go. Okay,
Our resident pitcher.
Ron Guidry, 18 strikeouts.
Okay.
That game, that was when. Again, I always wore 49 because of Guidry. I loved Guidry. As much as Munson was my favorite guy, but I loved Guidry too. And Louisiana Lightning just kind of at that time again, baseball needed him. He was that star, he was that guy. He was electric. He came in, he was just lighting up strikeouts all over the place. He was just a nice, good old boy from the South. And when they started that whole K thing, whatever the guy, I think there is a person who was, or two kids they're famous because they were the ones who started putting the K's up in the outfield whenever he would throw the strikeout.
Oh, really?
And that's how that whole started. It was all because of him. And he was just it amazing. Again, at that time, there wasn't anybody like him. His career got cut short. I think he still deserves the Hall of Fame. But that game when he struck out, he was just going nuts, striking everybody out, and it was almost like the ultimate pitching performance. He could do no wrong. Whatever he needed, where he needed to throw the ball, he was throwing it, and it wasn't just always fastballs. He had a great collection of different pitches. And that one, Guidry with that strikeouts, that's it. I'll always be my favorite game. It just stuck with me as a kid, and I always look back at that one. So that's
a good
my
one.
pick.
Yeah, that's a good one. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, I've got an interesting one. I was thinking about this a lot, and I remember watching on Nesson the game where Roger Clemens struck out 20 Mariners at Fenway. And that was a great game. And I stumbled upon that game when he had around like 15 strikeouts, and they started talking about him approaching the record. So that was one I thought of, but the one I marked down for this was one that's going to disappoint both of you, but Game 6 of the 2003 World Series, when the Marlins played the Yankees.
Just stab me in the heart.
I know. And Josh Beckett pitched for the Marlins on 3 days rest. I actually liked this Marlins team because they played small ball. Like Juan Pierre would lead off, he'd get on base, and then I think it's Luis Sanchez would move him over, and then they have two shots with Pudge Rodriguez and whoever was batting clean.
Conine the Barbarian. Come on, Jeff Conine, the greatest Marlin of all time.
Jeff Conine, but I was like, is it Jeff Conine? I don't know.
Conine the Barbarian. Yeah, he was on both of their championship teams. That's always to me that's an argument I always have. People say who's the greatest Marlin of all time. It's him.
Right.
No, don't tell me these other guys who came there and left. Jeff Conine was the guy.
I didn't want to say Jeff Conine because I was like, I don't know. Was he batting cleanup? Maybe. But Josh Beckett pitched a complete game shutout on 3 days rest, and he didn't pitch well in his prior outing, and he did this. I think he was 23 years old. He's really young, pitching in Yankee Stadium with a chance to put the Yankees away, and I fully expected the Yankees to win that game, win the series because they're the Yankees, and this was kind of like in their run of dominance. And watching this game, I kept waiting for Josh Beckett to break because it's New York and it's Yankee Stadium and it's always rocking and they had to win.
And it was 3 days, right?
What's that?
And he was on 3 days rest.
3 days rest, which made it all the more challenging.
Yeah.
He was on 3 days rest. He's pitching in Yankee Stadium in that hostile environment with a chance to put away the Yankees. I was thinking, there's no way this guy's he's gonna crumble under the pressure, and he was ice cold in that game. Just put the Yankees away. And look, that was his springboard to a massive contract with the Red Sox. I just thought it was a really impressive performance under all the circumstances. 3 days rest in Yankee Stadium in that hostile environment, trying to put.
He was young.
Yeah, young kid. I thought it was a great performance in a massive spot.
That's a good one. And I went World Series with mine as well. I went 1991 Game 7.
Oh,
Twins.
Awesome.
And the Braves.
I know. What a game. What a game.
Smoltz against Jack Morris. And I picked Jack Morris. He wasn't going to come out of the game.
Nope.
and people today be like, wait, the Minnesota Twins? But the Minnesota Twins had a great run in the early 90s with Kirby Puckett and Jack Morris, really.
Ken Herbeck, too, right?
Yep, Ken Herbeck. But Jack Morris he pitched basically. For those of you who don't know, the game ended 1-0, and Jack Morris pitched 10 innings.
10 innings?
10 innings. And nobody was going to take him out. He wasn't going to come out. And, it was just a phenomenal game. And 1-0 sounds boring, but, when I think Smoltz pitched into the 8th inning.
That was not a boring game. That was not a boring
right,
game.
Because these two, it was like you sat on the edge of your seat, right? Because you're like, somebody's going to score and this game's going to be over. And ultimately, the Twins scored in the bottom of the 10th on small ball, right? The guy got a hit, move him over, and they won 1-0. And again, it was Game 7 of the World Series, right? So this is the last game of the season, and you get John Smoltz against Jack Morris. And I just remember that game and remember watching it, and I remember everything be like, oh my God. Like at the end of every inning, somebody was going to lose, and you were just like, oh my God, at the end of every inning. So that one just jumped out to me.
Arguably, that's one of the best pitching performances of all time. I mean, it's
I
it's got to be in anybody's top 10. You can't have 1-0, 7th game of the World Series, 10 innings pitched. How do you top that?
Yeah. And this is when, pitchers were pitching Game 1, Game 4, Game 7, right? Like it was just that rotation, and you were going to pitch those 3 games. And, like Oral Hershiser and, Jack Morris, these guys were just built to say, give me the ball and I'm going to go pitch.
Because they didn't baby them. They didn't baby them. Their arms were stronger.
Yeah. And they didn't throw as hard. No,
they didn't throw as hard, but they didn't. They also
came
up through the farm system learning how to pitch 7, 8 innings.
Yeah.
That's how they did it. And they don't, it's not like 4. Oh, we got 4 out of that starter. That's good. No, that's not baseball.
Yeah.
Pitch 7, 8 innings. You got to do that. Yeah. And their arms got stronger. These guys didn't have arm problems. I've never seen this many arm problems. It's crazy. Every week, another person's got it. Well,
they're just throwing too hard. It's everything's miles per hour, and I think everybody's realizing it now. So, but how do you go back, right? Like, all these guys are throwing 95 to 100, and if all of a sudden a team says, you know what, pitchers, let's only throw 90. But we're going to conserve you and you're going to be healthier. The guys are going to look at it like they're being thrown softballs. They're going to be hitting them over the wall. But we'll see. So,
that was a great World Series overall too.
oh,
Yes, it was
yeah.
great.
Three of those
Yeah.
games went to extra innings. I think the Braves were in last place the year before. Both teams
Yeah,
were
both
terrible the
teams,
prior
but
year.
you know what? Both teams had likable players too,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's what was good. Because it was fresh. It was fresh. Oh, that was a great series. Yep,
yeah,
And
I liked both teams too. It was hard for me to root against either of them.
yeah, and it was great for us, right? I mean, because you don't have a rooting interest, so all of a sudden you're looking for a team or a
yeah.
player that you want to follow in that series, and it was a great series. But that game, probably one of the
Phenomenal.
best games ever in the World
It's a
Series,
great one.
The
It's
and
a great
Homer
doesn't
one.
get a lot of
Hankies,
play.
right? In
Oh
Minnesota,
yeah,
they
yeah,
had
the
the
Homer
Homer
Hankies,
Hankies, so it was this
yeah, the
whiteout.
Metrodome.
Yeah.
So what about so we did home runs, we did pitching. So let's switch sports. What's the best touchdown in the NFL that you recall?
Can I go first?
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, and this is one I recall it because I hated it, but it was. Um, so I grew up with a lot of Cowboy fans, friends, which again, that's kind of why I hate the Cowboys. But um, we, I used to go to my friend's house because he had he was the only guy in the neighborhood who had that big TV, but he was a Cowboys fan. So we go over there, and to watch the games, and we'd always have to watch the Cowboys, and because they were always on too. And so it was the Vikings Cowboys, and Tony Dorsett runs
Oh, the
the
99-yard run?
99-yard touchdown.
Wasn't that
And,
Monday Night Football, Brian?
yeah, it was, and it was Monday night. I was a young kid, but it was just so memorable in my mind because I couldn't stand the Cowboys, and then they, I was that was the Viking team that they were good, that Viking team, and so that would it was a good time to. They bottle them up. They bottle them up on the 1 yard line, and all of a sudden he breaks through and just keeps running, and he just keeps running, and he's got like, oh man, he broke all the like. I couldn't believe it. Again, I remember where I watched it. I remember where I was sitting, and I remember how pissed off I was that happened. And yeah, I've never been like. It's funny because I'm not a Giant fan, and I'm not a. I don't even have a real NFC team that I like a lot. I used to like the Rams back in the day, but I'm a Jet fan. But I just don't like the Cowboys. I do not like the Cowboys. I've never liked them. I've never rooted for them, and it's all because all my friends were Cowboys fans growing up.
Hmm. That's a good one though. That's a great run. Great run for sure. What about you, Mike?
Actually, as a little kid, I actually was a Cowboys fan as a little kid, and so the touchdown, and I can look back on this now and objectively say it was the best touchdown at the time. As a 10-year-old, I probably cried when it happened, but Dwight Clark's catch
Yes.
in
Oh
the
yeah, yeah,
'82 NFC Championship.
yeah.
Game, which was incredible, right? Montana rolls out, Too Tall Jones is chasing him, and Montana kind of pump fakes as he rolls to his right and gets Ed Too Tall Jones and maybe D.D. Lewis in the air and throws that ball, and Dwight Clark just goes floating over probably Everson Walls and makes that iconic catch in the back of the end zone late in the game. 49ers win 28-27. That's the beginning of their dynasty. They go on to beat
They call it the catch.
the
So
catch.
I mean, again, again, it's iconic. That's one of
Yeah.
that's the catch.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. No one else is. When it's called the catch, it
Yeah.
better be a darn good catch. That was,
I think
yeah,
they've got a
iconic.
statue of it.
It actually no, but actually put Joe Montana on the map too, right?
Yeah.
When you think about that, up until that point, that this
It,
justified that team.
didn't they live together? Joe Montana and Dwight Clark.
Did they?
Look that up. I think they
What
lived
they
together
dated?
with their wives.
They dated? Oh, with their
No,
wives.
with their wives. I think they
Oh,
all
I
lived
thought
together.
I thought you were breaking up some news I never knew about. I'm like, wait a
No.
second, I didn't know that.
Well, I don't know, but
Oh,
I
okay.
think they did. But that play is much better in slow motion from the reverse camera angle than it is from where they showed it in the game because it happened so fast and you were like, wait, was he in bounds? Was he out of bounds?
Yeah.
But that was a great, great catch. I picked, I posed this question to my youngest son and my dad today. And my youngest son quickly went to Ahmad Bradshaw kneeling down at the 1 yard line and then falling in for the Giants winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And I looked at my dad. I'm like, "What about you?" And he just said one word: Plaxico. He said that he remembers
Yes.
being the best when Eli just looped it up in the air and Plaxico was just standing there waiting for it to come down and scored a touchdown. I didn't pick either of those. That I thought of the Plaxico one first, but when I sat back, I think the Santonio Holmes catch in the Super Bowl. I just remember being like thinking, "This is the greatest Super Bowl I've ever watched." Like, my team. I'm a Giant fan, so I've seen 4 Super Bowls, and they're all great. But just the game of um, you know, Kurt Warner to Larry Fitzgerald all the way down the field. The Cardinals go up. Is Kurt Warner going to do it again with the Cardinals, right? Like, what are the Cardinals doing in the Super Bowl? But Kurt Warner and Larry Fitzgerald carry the Cardinals in the Super Bowl. They go ahead, and the Steelers and Ben Roethlisberger go down the field. 40 seconds left. Ben Roethlisberger throws this pass to the corner of the end zone that there's nothing but a sea of red and Cardinals there. And Santonio Holmes catches it, and his toes are like, it's like you're in the schoolyard, and you're practicing keeping your feet. I don't know how he kept his feet in, but I will always remember that touchdown as being like, and I'm not a Steeler fan, I'm not a Cardinal fan, but I just remember like that. It just sticks in my head as like that was just an amazing, amazing play, and how he caught it and why Ben threw it there. I don't know, but he did, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So,
That was a terrific game,
oh
too.
yeah, yeah,
It looked like it was going to be a blowout for the Steelers. Like, how
yeah.
did the Cardinals get to the Super Bowl? And wasn't that the right before the half? Didn't the Steelers return an interception?
Oh, was that the one that? Yeah. What's his name did it? The
The guy that was there
linebacker for the
forever.
Steelers. Yeah,
Um, and so
I can't remember.
I remember watching that. I remember where I was for that game. I was watching it at a neighbor's house and thinking, this Super Bowl stinks. It's a terrible Super Bowl. And then the second half started, and all of a sudden the Cardinals come back, and it's this back and forth game. And like you said, you're thinking Kurt Warner's going to do it again with the
Yeah,
Cardinals. The Cardinals are going to win a Super Bowl, and then for the Steelers to come back, and that is a great catch. I had forgotten about that, and had to go back and watch the video. And for Santonio Holmes to get his feet down again in that kind of a pressure spot to make that play is amazing.
and then to tie it to Bryan, Santonio Holmes then goes to the Jets and never does anything.
Yeah, exactly. These Jets guys.
He actually causes more problem. He caused a ton of problems.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. Well, the Steelers know they know how to draft wide receivers and then use them up and get rid of them, and send them to other people for their problems. Okay, so what about kick, NFL kick that you remember the most?
uh, I'll go first, and you could and we can talk about this because it's going to be interesting because I thought about this and I know which one of you guys are going to pick. So that would have been my choice. So I'm going to tell you my other one now. When you guys were growing up, did you have that super jock football guy that you would like slam him on the
Yes.
head and he would kick a
Yeah.
field goal, right? Right. So we used to have that, and my buddy Wayne and I used to play all the time. We used to play. He had the way his basement was. We had a real long stretch, and we could go in there. and We try to kick field goals, and we had the greatest time with that thing. I loved that thing. I wish they still had that. I don't know if they might have it still. You can buy it, but that was great. And so he had a flat foot. He had it was made. The thing was made. So when I was one of the things they used to always have like these you know greatest things in sports. They would show all these replays all the time back then, and I didn't see it live, but I saw it so many times on replay that this kick to this day always resonates. That so it's been broken, but for the longest time, Tom Dempsey held the record for the longest field goal ever.
I knew
Right?
you were going to say,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and Tom Dempsey had that 63-yard field goal, which was again for so many years that was the record until recently. It's been broken a couple times, but it's a different world than it was then. It's everything's different. The balls are different, but he had a peg leg. He had only one arm. He had and his foot was he was missing half his foot. But this guy could kick a field goal, man, and it was
Wait,
amazing.
wait. He was missing an arm.
Yeah, he had like no hands on one arm, or he had just like
Really? I didn't know
I
that.
yeah,
didn't know
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. Go back and look at him. Yeah, yeah. Go.
Yeah.
Where did he get that shoe that he wore?
I don't know. It was great. It was crazy. It was
A
crazy.
flat front. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
he kicked it straight on, right? He's kind of
yeah,
Yeah.
whoop, and just hammered the ball.
he hammered the ball, right? And yeah,
I
it,
remember
it
that,
was
Brian. Yeah.
amazing. It was amazing.
They played that. They played that over and over. It must have been part of the
Yeah,
start of
he
Monday Night
his right
Football
hand,
or
his right
something.
hand. He didn't have a right hand. He didn't have a right
Right
hand.
hand. Okay.
Okay. But yeah, he played on a bunch of teams. But like the Saints, he was really good. He kicked that ball with the Saints. He had some really good years with the Eagles. You know, he was on the Eagles. He played on a lot of teams. But this guy could kick the long field goal. He was like at the time, like no one was even close to that. No one hit
Yeah.
60-yard field goals. He used to hammer the buck straight on and do that. Very, different world, different way things were as far as field goals and how that was back then. But um, nowadays, who knows? He would have been kicking like 70-yarders.
Yeah.
It's amazing, because
Mm.
it's different now. The balls are different. They give you a new ball when you kick field goals, as opposed to back in the day, you had to kick like the football could be all full of mud and dirty and whatever. Like you'd have to go kick it. They didn't change the footballs like they did today. They do today. They have
Yeah.
special like punting and kicking footballs right now, right? When the punters go out, it's a brand new ball.
Yeah.
Um, it's different. So it's a different whole world, and he was able to do that. So to me, just because I saw it, it was like on every replay that dun 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 dun, 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 there was, here it is, the kick, and they would always bring that kick and show it up. So
Yeah.
it got stuck in my mind.
That's a good one.
Hmm.
How about you, Mike?
Yeah, for me, I was racking my brain trying to think of one, and then it finally came to me. And the game is probably not known for this kick as much as it's known for a controversial call. But in 2002, when the Raiders and the Patriots were playing in an AFC divisional playoff, there was Tom Brady's fumble, which was not ruled a fumble. I still don't know. It still looks like a fumble to me. I don't know. I don't know the rules clearly. But following that call, overturning the fumble call for the against the Patriots retain possession, complete a couple passes, and then Adam Vinatieri comes on, kicks a 45-yard field goal to win the game in overtime in the snow. Right, if you recall, this game was on a Saturday night. I remember it was really late. My wife's asleep on the couch, and I'm watching this football game with two teams I don't even care about, and it's this incredibly intriguing game. Tuck rule, fumble, and Vinatieri hits this game-winning field goal, which again begins the Patriots dynasty, and it begins this career for Adam Vinatieri of being this clutch kicker. He hit a couple. I think he hit a couple of Super Bowl winning field goals. Had a great career with the Patriots, and then went on to the Colts. Had a great career. So for me, that one was iconic, and the game itself is iconic more so for something else that happened. But that kick, thinking of it as a springboard for both the Patriots and Vinatieri's career, kind of put it at the top of my list.
Do you think he'll get in the Hall of Fame?
Vinatieri?
Yeah.
I think he should. I think he should.
Yeah, he's clutch. That was clutch.
They don't let a lot of kickers in, but
No, he's
think
the
if
one. I think
anybody
he's the
does.
best kicker of his generation.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was a good one. Do you remember when New England? I think it was in New England where they had the tractor come out and plow
Yes.
off the field.
Yes.
Remember that? Like, what
They
was
won that game 3-0. I remember that game. The kicker was like John Smith, I think was his name. They brought the
That was crazy.
they brought the plow on, and it just plowed to the place where the ball was going to get snapped to.
That wasn't my pick, but I remember
That's
that
a
one.
great one.
Mine wasn't for the good. Mine was for the bad. So, and for the good for my team. But I picked the wide right, Scott Norwood's kick in the Super Bowl. I felt bad for Scott Norwood that night, and still do. But I don't think the Bills helped him out at all. Again, the Bills were a juggernaut team. They'd end up going to 4 Super Bowls and not winning any of them. But this was the one that they really had the opportunity to win, was to beat the Giants. And it was a great game. It was back and forth, and Jeff Hostetler for the Giants leads them down, and they get a field goal, and they go up by 1. And Jim Kelly and Thurman Thomas lead the Bills down. and they leave Scott Norwood with a 47-yard field goal, basically to win the Super Bowl. And the kick goes off and no time on the clock, and it goes wide right, and the Giants end up winning the Super Bowl, and um, a lot going on in the country at the time, and it was just a great win. And I watched it. I was in college at the time, and I just remember, I'll always remember that kick, and hit, Scott Norwood's head just going down, and I think it was Everson Walls jumping up in the air and like pumping his fist, and I think it was Everson Walls, but um, obviously a bad outcome for Scott Norwood, but a good outcome for the Giants because they got to win the Super Bowl. So that's the kick that I remember.
Another iconic game because that was a springboard to the Bills losing 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah, that I remember that too, the Norwood one. That might have been my other pick because again, it was just so crazy and it was, seen by so many people, and he was such a good kicker, and I know he kicked for
Yeah.
James Madison, in college, and he was a really, I mean, he was just pretty much a money kicker for so many years.
Yeah.
I don't know if that impacted him mentally too. I think
Oh
afterwards.
yeah, yeah, and it wasn't an easy. It was natural grass. It was 47 yard. It wasn't like a gimme by any. Like people think he missed a gimme shot. It wasn't.
The
Plus with all the pressure.
the Giants defense played a great game because
Yeah,
that Bills offense was a juggernaut, that K gun offense, and
yeah, yeah.
so we talk about like, oh, you put the pressure on Scott Norwood to make this kick. The offense did him no favors. 19 points. I mean, it was a
Well,
great
that was
performance.
that was all Bill Belichick, right? He was the
Yeah,
defensive
yeah,
coordinator for the Giants, and he had a game plan which said they can catch the ball, but as soon as they catch it, you hit them as hard as you can possibly hit them, and
yeah.
they're not going to want to catch it all day long. And that's what the Giants did. The Giants had a phenomenal defense, and Lawrence Taylor was, on that team, so they had a great team. But that was the kick that I remember the most, I think.
It's a
So
great, yeah, great one.
here's the last one, and we'll switch sports again. So, what dunk do you remember the most?
Go ahead, Mike. You
Most
go
memorable
first.
dunk?
Yeah,
Mike, our
this
resident
this is always a
basketball guy.
tough one because I didn't want to pick a dunk contest dunk, for example, and say
Yeah,
Blake Griffin jumping over a Kia or Jordan or Dr. J from the foul line, which are great dunks. So I'm trying to think of like in-game dunks, and it's kind of hard to think of an in-game dunk that's winning a game or something like these field goals and home runs we're talking about. But one that I remember because I started thinking of Michael Jordan had to have had a bunch of iconic dunks, and the one that I remember is and again I feel bad because I'm breaking Alex's heart again here, but against the Knicks in
you enjoy it.
1991 in the playoffs when he catches the ball out on the wing, he starts going baseline. Oakley and John Starks come over. They start double teaming him. He reverse dribbles like he's going out towards the sideline and then pivots, goes baseline. John Starks kind of stumbles over, and poor Patrick Ewing comes over to try to help. And Jordan dunks on him, gets the foul, and glares at him. And it was just,
Yeah,
and
and they're good
Michael Jordan
friends.
loved playing in the Garden and being, the villain against the Knicks, and Patrick Ewing and he were friends. But I just remember that dunk and the call of that dunk, which I think was Marv Albert, was great for me.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Go ahead, Brian.
So I had a lot. I was thinking of some crazy ones. And so my favorite one, and again, wow, this is I probably had a list of five, and I was going back and forth between them. I was thinking of one of my runner up, and I'll give you my runner up because it was such a very unique one. Was and this will be, when the Hawks. Remember when the Hawks had with the Dominique team. Dominique was on the Hawks, and there was a couple years where the Hawks were a really good team. They were up there every year, but they could just never get past the Bulls, never get past the Celtics. It was so there was, I don't know the exact year, but they were playing the Celtics in the playoffs, and Dominique was on fire, but he was getting double teamed. And I remember John Battle, who used to play for Rutgers, was on that team for the Hawks. They used to call them the Hawks Air Force. Remember they used to have a song. The Hawks have an air. There was an Air Force, or I don't know what they were called, but Anyway, um, all I remember is Dominique was getting double teamed. He fed it over to Battle, and Battle went up over Bird and just like hammered this dunk. But that's not my most favorite dunk of all time. But I do remember that one because I used to like John Battle. But I will tell you, um, the other the other one was Buck Williams, who with the Nets for the longest time, he was the net. He was the best net player for 10 years, right? He was the
Yeah.
best. And, he's still. I don't know why he's not in the Hall of Fame, but that's another episode we could talk about players who belong in the Hall of Fame. But he needs to be in the Hall of Fame anyway. The Nets were playing the Sixers the year after the Sixers won the championship in the first round of the playoffs, and I went to I went to the I went to Philly to see that the final game of the playoff series, Sixers Nets. It was a Michael Ray Richardson, Otis Birdsong, Mike Jaminski, Daryl Dawkins on the Nets that year, and Buck was on the Nets. That was a good net team. That could, in my opinion, that's the best net team of all time. But there were other teams that went further, but that net team was good. And Albert King, it was a great team. So there was a stretch where everybody was figured, okay, Dr. J, this Sixer team, they're just gonna run. They're gonna win that the final game of the series. Are you kidding me? What the Nets have no chance. And Dr. J, who I love, Dr. J, right? I'm one of the biggest Dr. J fans around. Dr. J had a couple big dunks, and it looked like the Nets were falling apart. But all of a sudden, the Nets started, coming back, and Michael Ray Richardson was on fire, and Otis Birdsong was going nuts, and then Buck Williams just took the ball down the lane and dunked over over Marco Averoni and Dr. J, and it was just he pounded it, and the whole spectrum, I think it was a spectrum at that time, just went silent because at that point they knew that the Sixers were going to lose because it was a close game. And Buck came. I wish I don't even have a video of that, but I just remember that it quieted that whole arena. And there was, when I tell you, there might have been 5 Net fans in that place, and I was there rooting for the Nets, and it was quiet, and I thought I was going to get killed. Knowing those Sixer fans. And I was in my glory, and again I was rooting for the Nets because I liked that Net team, and even though the Knicks were great too at that time, that was the Bernard King Knick time. Um, the Net team on that time, I just loved Michael Ray Richardson. I loved Buck Williams, and I tell you, I will always remember that him going down the lane. Just that wasn't his type of game, but he had the right thing, and he shut down. He was the leader of that team. He was the captain of that team, and he shut down that whole arena. It was done, and that was it. At that point, the Sixers never came back, and that was one of the biggest upsets in, I think, the history of basketball because no one gave them a shot in that series. So that's my
That's
that's
a
my
good
dunk.
one. That's a good one. You being able to be there, how
Yeah,
great is that?
yeah.
Because just getting the vibe of the fans and being there is it's different than obviously watching it on TV. But I had two for mine, and Mike is stabbing me in the heart again with this choice, but I'm gonna go back at him and say, John Stark's left-handed dunk over Horace Grant
Yeah.
and Michael Jordan.
Yep.
A
Yeah.
lot of people
Yeah,
forget
that's
that
a
Michael Jordan was
great
in on
one.
that
Yeah. He
play,
was. He was.
That is
but
a great one.
right, and Stark's, he's at the top of the key, and BJ Armstrong's guarding him, and he just goes right, and he goes right to the basket, and Horace Grant challenges him, and he goes to his left hand, and Jordan comes in to help, and he just dunks over both of them, and obviously the Knicks didn't get past the Bulls, but they won that game, and the Garden was going absolutely crazy when that happened, and so I think that's the one play that John Starks, why he's back in the Garden every year, and
He's got to be
uh,
one of the most beloved Knicks of all
I
time.
know, and I guess it's nice because he had such a horrible game when in the finals when they had the opportunity to win, but the fans still love him, and every time he's shown on the screen, he goes crazy. The other one I had was Hurley to Grant Hill in the finals, just to
Yeah.
stab Mike in the heart here against Kansas. when Hurley threw it from about half court and Grant Hill caught it with one hand
Behind his
on
back.
the side of the backboard, right behind his head,
Yeah.
and dunked it. I mean, it was, again, just one that I remember all the time whenever anybody says a dunk. Most people think pros, but I always think Grant Hill. And that's the play that made me be like, wow, he is just going to be a phenomenal pro player when he made
It's
that
sad.
play.
It's so sad what happened
So
to him.
athletic. Yeah. But those were my two for dunks. So
The
but I
Grant Hill
thought
dunk was great. I think someone mentioned that to him because now he does the Final Four, and someone mentioned it to him one time. There was a great dunk in a game, and someone commented on Bill Raftery commented on Grant Hill's dunk, and Grant Hill I think is even in disbelief
that
that he
he
was
was
able
able
to
to do
dunk that ball.
Yeah.
That might be the best dunk because it's so far behind his head. He was a freshman at the time, and again, it's in this moment. It's in the national championship game to make a play like that as an 18-year-old kid, biggest stage, and Duke had a history of not winning because that was their first national championship was that year. They just came off beating UNLV in the Final Four, an undefeated UNLV team. So that dunk is that's
And
iconic.
it's like for the width of the backboard, it's on the far right
Yeah,
side. And he catches it with one hand and brings it from the far. I don't know how that far that is, but it
yeah.
must have been 3 feet, right? Like from where he caught it,
It was a
and then
terrible
was able to
pass.
yeah, it was. And to bring it all the way to the basket and dunk it, it
Yeah,
was insane. It just showed his athleticism and
yeah. Great player.
Hurley's inability to put a good pass together.
Yeah.
But anyway, I thought that was neat, going through those things, and I hope
I like that.
we brought back
This is
some
good
memories for
stuff.
some
No, it
folks.
is.
Yeah,
It is that sports shape a lot of what we do and how we are as people,
Great
and
memories.
some of those memories, and we talked about. You remember where you were during these certain things, right? You definitely remember, and that means something. And I always, I have friends who actually don't like sports at all. They don't. I don't like sports. I don't care about. I don't even care. But it's funny because it's one of those things that time boxes you, and you a certain day, a certain event, certain thing that happens, you remember where you were, and just like historical events, just like major impacts or storms and things like that, you remember where you were when that happened, and you do. To me, sporting events fit into that category. You remember where you were at certain times where certain things happened. Whether it be a boxing match or something like that, you remember those things, and that's part of life, and that's why sports are part of life. But
yep,
I just don't. I know there are people that don't like sports, and they're allowed to. They can like theater and things like that, or wherever. If it's something that's better, better for them. But for us, I think we all grew up with that as a big proponent of our life, right? And it impacts what we did on that certain day. And I there's probably many other sporting events that each of you have had that you remember where you were on those days, right? And just major events, major things, what you did, and you go back and think about it, and you're like, I remember where I was in that room on that TV or whatever, and I at that field or whatever, I saw that happen. I think that's just really cool about sports.
yeah, I agree. It brings back. It's like when you smell something that brings you back. It's like when somebody talks about that sport moment, it brings you back in
Yeah.
time. So it's a cool thing.
Okay, well, this has been a terrific episode. It's a little bit long, folks, and we do apologize. It's an hour and 20 minutes. It's a long episode, but I have to tell you, this is a good one. Good stuff. So I hope you enjoy it. Please give us some feedback. Alex, where can people find us?
So we are at all the major podcasting networks: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. So tell your friends. And online, we are at Instagram, 3 The Hard Way Sports. It's the number 3 The Hard Way Sports. And on Threads, we are 3 The Hard Way Sports. And on Facebook, we are 3 The Hard Way Sports. So those are the main places that you can find us. And, we'd love your feedback. If you have any feedback on any of our episodes, you can send it to info@3thehardway.com.
And also, Michael, you have an autograph signing at Mr. Pizza Slice in Red Bank next week, right?
I'll be there every day from 5 to 7.
Okay, great. And people can bring their replica college uniform jerseys, perfect jerseys, and get them autographed. Mike, what do you charge? $15 to sign?
Yes,
I thought he was only signing slices of pizza.
Slices of pizza.
Pizza
That's it.
as well. Yeah, I take
It's edible ink.
Venmo, cash.
Paper cups. Yeah, he'll have a Sharpie there. He'll sign paper cups, whatever you want. He doesn't charge much, and he'll get he'll give you a good deal. He'll take pictures for what, $5. He'll take a picture with you.
Hey, I'll sign it. I'll sign it even if you don't want my signature, and I'll grab your phone and take a selfie with you.
There you go. There you go. Okay, everybody. Have a great day.
Good night.